The topic of truth is so interesting because telling the truth to someone is like so incredibly kind because there's then no distortion in the field.
It I'm thinking about what happens inside of me when I'm wanting to say the truth. And sometimes that truth uh, feels good to me, and it might feel good to another person. It's when truth may feel hard inside of me to speak, and or I think, because it's my projection of what that person may interpret from that truth. I think it gets tricky. Truth gets tricky, but it originates as kind for sure. Like, truth is kindness, it's love, it's exposing yourself, it's letting other people see what's inside of you. It's risky.
Mhm. Yeah, cuz when you tell the truth, it's a really clean exchange when the truth is going back and forth. And that's like when you maintain that truth, like you are able to maintain alignment with that person. And in the sense, if you guys share your truths and they align, then that's like a beautiful path to follow, right?
Yes.
But if like the truth is spoken and the other person's truth is, well, not even like, and there isn't the alignment, like then it ultimately creates change in the physical world
Mm-hmm.
so that new things can come into the path, so that you can continue to work towards alignment, I think.
Mm-hmm. And the I think the idea of truth, if it's not in alignment with the other person, right, then it does bring about change, because that change could even be, I have to see this from a different perspective, or I want to understand what this person is saying. I need to root further into myself in order to hear what that person is saying. So it creates change on so many levels. It can create an actual physical change, but it can create a internal emotional change too. And
100%.
and
Yeah.
and also, if we think about inner dialogue and our inner world, right? That we are only rightfully so, we're the ones who are very familiar with that. It could also create new conversations within self. Like, oh, I've never thought of that before. I'm going to start orienting my life like that. And then that orientation creates new experiences and new people and new ways of interacting. So it's worth, well, for me, I don't want to speak for you, but for me, it's worth the risk.
100%. Yeah, because the yeah. So when I was, younger, it was like more like, what does this person want to hear from me, right? Like,
Right.
stay in these environments. But then it was like inside, I didn't feel aligned with myself. So there's all this like tension or friction inside of myself.
Right.
And now it's like the more we speak the truth and risk the truth, the more that the change does happen, but then we get to experience more inner and outer alignment.
Right.
And it does, it's the letting go of what isn't actually for you, because the better things are actually going to come into your life from it. And that's like a scary process. uh,
Totally scary. Totally scary. But the other thing is when you don't tell the truth, then you're giving up on a part of yourself. You're suggesting that there's a hierarchy and you're not at the top of that hierarchy, you know?
mhm.
And And you are, obviously, like, your needs and your wants and your desires and what you want to speak into the world, and how you want to be seen in the world is the most valuable. The most
Yeah.
valuable.
Yeah, it was such an interesting realization that to be authentic is to literally just be able to speak your actual truth.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's but it does take a while to like figure out. I think like it's interesting. I want to hear your perspective on this, and like, how do you know what your truth is? That's a really hard question.
um okay, I gain a lot of wisdom when I close my eyes, so I'm going to do
Mhm.
that. Okay. Let me see. uh I'm seeing almost like a graph, or a road, or two roads on top of each other. It's like you only, I think, experience your truth when you have your failures, or your wounding, or your scars, or something is happening to you. And then you're like, whoa, that did not ring true to me. That did not feel right in my body and in my heart. And the more of those experiences that happen, right, the more you understand what your actual truth is. And on the flip side of that, it happens in a positive way too. If you share with someone and you're sharing your truth and they validate that truth, or they accept that truth, or they know how to work with you through the the distortions or the patterns, like I have a pattern or a trigger around what you're saying, and that other person can actually work with you and then reflect back to you, that builds truth too. Like, both, many things build truth. I mean, even the intuition that comes through, that feels so honoring and so true to your earth path, like the path that you're walking. I mean, how can you deny that truth? I mean, it comes in like a lightning bolt, and it feels right to you. I
Mhm.
think truth feels right to you, even if it's hard, or even if somebody is saying something to you that's hard, you can still feel it's true. It's truth. Like, wow, I know that about me, so I know whatever they're saying is true. Like, I remember working with this on my inner child once, with this woman who does inner child work, and she said to me, you can really be a bitch sometimes. And I was like, oh, how dare her say that to me? I mean, honestly, I was incredibly offended. But then when I actually was listening to myself and, grounding in, I was like, yeah, yeah, that's true. I can be. Because it's true. you know? And I have to honor all of the aspects of me. The light, the dark, the shadow, all the elements that want to come out.
Mhm.
What do you what I want you to answer that question too, though, Indigo. Like, what is your take on that?
Yeah, as soon as I asked you that, I realized the multidimensional nature of it, and my brain exploded because I'm like, well, there's like your truth in the moment. Like, the truth is I'm hungry right now, and I don't, like, like it's there's these like small truths that you're dealing with all day long, right? Then there's
Yes.
like the next layer of like I think about it as like maybe the just the overall truths we have relationally with each other.
Hmm.
Then there's these even like bigger truths about these like huge decisions in your life, like like who I'm with and what do I do, as my a profession, or like what am I here to do, right? So
Hmm.
there's like this bigger layer of truth, and then there's like the like truth of your soul journey. And so that, like, I was just thinking about it from the little micro, like what is the truth of what my body feels like right now, all the way to the truth of like the whispers inside of my soul.
Right?
So, yeah.
I think
Mm.
that's why I saw it as like highways or like levels or some kind of graph. It's bigger than it's one word that has a lot of components.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
but but I do believe there's one fundamental element to it though. It feels right to you even if what it's saying is harsh or what you want to say is harsh. It feels true to you. All of those aspects.
Yeah, and I think that like I was trying to tune into those moments when I was afraid to say the truth. There's been a lot of moments where I've been afraid to say the truth and I haven't. And I know what that feels like cuz you can feel this continual dissatisfaction or this like discontentment within your body. It doesn't get resolved, you know? Like then it's like material that's kind of circulating in there.
Right?
But if you can like speak the truth in that moment, it involves risk.
Yeah.
And a lot of times there'll actually be a beautiful reward with it.
Mhm.
There is a reward either way. Like whether it like whatever direction it goes when you speak the truth, it actually ultimately does reward you, even if like for some reason someone leaves your life or because of the truth, right?
Right.
That like leaves room for whatever's supposed to come into your life. So it's ultimately a blessing, but like we feel that like that there's something almost like wrong or that something bad could happen when we speak our truth because it's like in the dominant culture we are like as like when we're younger like we're not like brought up to speak our truth.
No.
So
No.
we're deconditioned out of it. So then to do it, we can actually I some of the things that I've experienced when I've gone to tell my truth is like feeling like I was being mean, for example, and then like realizing that it's actually normal. Like,
Mhm.
it's like, "Oh, I'll not say the truth because that's nice." And then when I say the truth, it's like part of me thinks, "Oh my gosh, I'm all the way on the other side of the spectrum." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, no, I'm just being normal."
Mhm.
Like my truth is like okay to speak.
Mhm. Um, mhm. I Yeah, it's like I do believe the culture teaches us not to tell the truth. I mean, you know, it starts when we're very young and the way that our earth is oriented too with teachers and students and um yeah, it's something that mm, it is something that we have to develop, but it's something inherently we received also when we were born. Like we were born with our truth inside of us, like
Oh
a
yeah.
compass. It's like a compass, and when you're directionally off of that compass, even I mean, I can remember being a child thinking, I really want to tell the truth right now, and I can't. And so I would speak it anyway, speak it to myself internally, or speak it to a friend outside of my house, or speak it to my sister or my sisters. I mean, it's hard to keep the truth inside yourself. I mean, it's hard. It wants to come out, it wants to be alive, it wants to show itself to people because it's our compass. It's the way
Mm.
we orient our lives, and it's the way we orient our lives. Um,
Yeah, I like the compass metaphor because it's like, yeah, like our truth is it is our compass. And kids are beautiful. They just tell the truth naturally.
yes,
Like, and because of like the way I've raised my kids, like they will tell me that they're not afraid to tell me the truth. So
yes.
they're like very powerful reflectors to the the authentic raw truth of the experience that is happening. And that
Mhm.
is like that's they're showing us where we need to get back to because
Yeah.
it's already installed inside of them.
Mhm. Yeah, and I want to speak to this idea that I know, this whole idea varies too based on circumstances and how the family dynamics and everything. But even if you couldn't speak the truth, you still know what the truth is. Like it is a deep knowing. It
Hmm.
really is a deep knowing. And it is part of who you are when you're born. It doesn't, it will always present itself. You will always have an opportunity.
Hmm.
And no matter what your life circumstances are looking like, and the timing also, you know. We also know timing. When is the right time? You know, am I aligned enough to tell the truth? Do I feel strong enough inside myself before I say this? Am I ready for the reflection that comes back to me?
Hmm.
We know timing as well. I'm not saying we follow these things.
Hmm.
I'm not saying we follow them. I'm saying we know them.
Yeah, I like that because what I've realized from like n- knowing that I haven't told the truth, I'm creating a space of time to work through material. And
Yeah.
then when the time's right, right? We finally get to say the truth.
Yes.
And so, yeah, like, so anytime we haven't spoken the truth, we didn't do the wrong thing, right? Like
Right.
it's like just a process that was supposed to happen. And there's like a set of like karmic material we go through where it's like telling the truth breaks down the sometimes it can break down people's the life that they've unconsciously built.
Yes.
And so that's like kind of that's what a lot of people are working through is that like that truth telling in there because once you start to get in alignment with the whispers of your soul, then that truth like becomes like more available
Right. You
and
want to
clearer.
experience it more. Mhm.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And to me, it was like the tension got like it just got too much. Where I was like, there's no way I'm not going to get in alignment now.
Right. Yeah, because it does. That's the drawback of not telling the truth is that it compounds on you. You feel it. You feel it in your body. It's like
Hmm.
an elephant weighing on you. Um, yeah,
And that
I
is
agree
why
with
we
you.
like are coping a lot of times, and we
Mhm.
are dealing with the repercussions of that in our body. So I guess like yeah. So the question I have, okay, so for someone that feels like they're like coping. Maybe that's like they have anxiety, for example.
Mhm.
And they're like, "Well, I want to make this change, but I'm like so afraid that if I say this truth, then I will lose this and what if this doesn't happen for me and like I don't the thing doesn't open up?" Like there's, so there's like these unknown fears
Right.
and we're right on that tipping point of saying the truth and we're just like holding on that edge. Like how do we navigate through that?
Hmm. Let me think about it. I don't think there's a one size fits all answer to this, but I can imagine, or even when I look in my rear view mirror at my life, when I was on that edge and I wasn't really willing to tell the truth because of the circumstances that it would create, I it's as if the universe would talk to me. Like I would see a movie. I'd be like, "Well, I can't deny that. That's the truth. That's the truth. That's how I feel." Or I'd have a conversation with a friend and I wouldn't say anything about my situation or what was going on with me, but they would be reflecting their truth to me that would register as truth to me. So I genuinely feel that the universe is always talking to you, and it's always helping you take that next step. It's always telling you somehow, through movies, through books, through relationships, through your own thoughts, through something your children might say to you, through a class you're taking. It those whispers or those experiences get loud. They get loud, and it gives you information on how you might go about it too. Like if I'm having an experience, and I'm just going to use, the picture that's coming into my mind. If I'm having an experience and I'm living a blue life, and all of a sudden all the information that's coming in is pink, it's going to show me how to blend pink and blue together so that I can move forward. And again, it's all really about timing too. Like these things sometimes they magically happen right away, but sometimes they take years and years. And honoring that is important, because for example, if you're a person who may be thinking about leaving your relationship, or you have a best friend that's no longer resonating with you, or these bigger life things, it's important to take your time if that's what is needed, because you don't have all the information. You don't have all the wisdom. You may not even have the right truth. It may feel distorted in some way. So it's important to take the next natural step.
I love this answer, because what you're saying is that, like, the universe is allowing that truth to unfold within you, and it's actually working with you the whole time. So if you realize something is out of alignment, or you can feel it, the information is coming to you, and it does take time, and you're bringing in this information, and you're processing it through, and you could be going through internal pattern changes, and you could be going through inner child work, and doing all sorts of things in life that are working you towards that one day that you're able to actually make that bigger shift.
Right. And when you make that shift, because I know this will speak to just everybody, when you make that shift, all of a sudden you can look at the rearview mirror and go, wow, I was not ready. I wasn't ready. I was preparing, because you can look in hindsight, you can look back and realize, this is right. I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
It's like you can stand there and be in awe of what you built and constructed and understood about yourself and your circumstances, because you're going to be standing in a place of knowing and truth, and you're going to be able to look back and be in gratitude of the timing and realize you weren't ready.
Yeah, I have always retrospectively been in gratitude of the timing and the lessons and everything I had learned from the period of time where I was like, oh, this is my truth is that I want to leave this thing, right? Or make this big change. And everything that happened after that has been so perfect and beautiful and needed in order to hold myself in that change, that when it actually does occur.
Right. I mean, it's a really cool experience, I think. I mean, especially if you're dealing with a energy stream that's taking you a long time. I mean, years, 10 years, 15 years. And you finally have it, and you look back. It's like a painting. It's like I just made a painting, and all the details were there, and all the information was there and all the colors match, and it's quite beautiful.
It really is. Cause yeah, it's your life. And all of those experiences are like are are beautiful components of your future too. Like they just go along the ride with you and they're very important. These
Yes,
lessons during that time were like are so key to the future too.
I know, I feel like we're hopping around, but what you're speaking to now is the idea of an energy timeline, and
Mhm.
that even though uh, you may not be ready to tell the truth and you're having all these experiences, that when you are ready, you understand the past and you are then setting yourself up for your future. And then when you're living the present moment, which is in a sense your future, right? Because you don't know you're living it, so you're living in the present moment. You're realizing that every single thing that you collected or understood was for this moment right now that you're creating for the future. It's like a whole experience of a timeline of energy.
Mhm.
It's a
Yeah.
timeline,
Yes.
and
And
it's you.
go ahead.
No, it's you. Your timeline is you.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And okay, so one last thing I want to touch on. So we were talking about like I love talking about the topic of like quitting the job because there's so many people that are like, I actually don't want to be working here, right? That's like one of the harder things to like change, right?
I agree.
And so let's say you've you've changed the job, like you've gotten to alignment with your relationship, your job, like you these more deeper layers of your inner truth. You're like listening to these whispers of your soul and you're like, okay, now I'm to this point where I actually feel what alignment feels like. Like I'm
Yes.
starting to feel this, right? And so then I'm
Yeah.
like, oh wait, where am I walking now? And it's like the invisible path. You're walking the invisible path now. And
Yay!
yeah, and as you walk that and you start to get these like clues, these dharmic clues about what you're like the truth of your being, like of maybe like what you're here to like help with or how you who you're here to be. That's like a then it's like getting the courage to walk the truth of your
Dharma.
soul. Yes. And that takes time too because you retrospectively look back and I go, "Oh, all along this has been the clues through these experiences I have learned like about my own energy, about my own gifts, like what I'm kind of here doing as much as one can actually know, right?" And it's like they're almost like I've had to accept the truth about myself and hold that energy. And it's like I'm here to, for example, um, teach the dark feminine, right? It's like
Mhm.
so then those like characteristics, that archetype, that those principles as they and I'm embodying them, then when I go to speak that out into the world, like that truth has an effect on the culture. It
Right.
has an effect on the environment I'm in. And for example, like the dark feminine can be disruptive or counterculture to the overculture. And so then I'm like, we're continually asked to speak our truth. And there's like, there is no end to it as you begin to walk the path into the unknown, as you'll continually be asked over and over to align with your truth.
Yeah. Which you know. Like even in the unknown path, you know.
Yeah.
Because you are a seed of light. That you understand that language. So even on the unknown path, you know.
Yes, you just know. there is just a deep knowing, and it's yeah, it feels to me more like an acceptance of truth walking on the dharmic path.
Right. Let's see. Um, mhm. Yeah. Accepting it and then doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because you get to a point where you feel that you have prepared enough to do your dharmic path. So
Mm-hmm.
if you are, let's say you are a person who wants to share wisdom, then that means you've had a lot of experiences in this life where you have had to gain wisdom. Like you can add what that means to you indigo. Like
Mm-hmm.
a person who's had to gain a lot of wisdom has probably gone through a lot of crap.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of crap in their lives. A
Mm-hmm.
person who may want to speak about love has probably had a variety of relationships that are all different and maybe even some really bad ones.
Mm-hmm.
And then they understand love. So we're coded from birth. We're coded with what it is that we know and our truth and what we've walked and what we understand. And our experiences relate to that so that we can accept it. And once we accept it, then we don't have to do anything with it, but that might be another piece of truth that starts breaking down inside of you if you don't do something with it once you've achieved a certain level.
Yeah, that's really meta, but it's like, yeah, you're like, you start to feel like really, like, then it's like, well, I know I'm gonna have to speak the truth, no matter, like my personal truth, like, is an artistic expression, and now I'm like, oh shoot, now I know I'm gonna continually speak it. It's almost like tension the other direction.
Right. And then when you're listening to people's truth, you want to check in with your own truth too, because we're really just listening to other people's information of their truth, the collection of their experiences and how it's coming out of them. And then we get to decide what rings true for us. Like, does that ring true for me? It may not. I may want to listen to that. I may want to not follow that. So if you are at that certain level where you accept your truth and you want to start speaking it out, then as a listener, you have to register within yourself that truth too. Like, is this truth that resonates with me?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and our truth is like wiggly and flexible too, right? And it's
Well,
so
yeah,
it's like, yeah, it's not like it's just like it's put a pole in the ground and it's like, meh, like
it's
it.
open minded.
Yeah,
Truth
yeah,
is open minded.
yeah. We're like it's being really fluid inside, but also solid. There's like that balance between solid and fluid.
Yeah.
Needed.
What a wild thing to think about, right?
Hmm.
It's kind of wild how that works.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe that, but that is really true.
Yeah, I think there's like, to me, it feels like a solid foundation in my own cosmology and my own like understanding of this reality. And then it's like, but then there's a fluidity to interpersonal relationships and like, that's the beauty of it. It's like you could speak what you think is your truth, interact with another person, and it actually like opens up something inside of you, and then suddenly you become different, right? And
Right.
then like and like so it's so like wiggly, but also like you just know, like, and like trusting the knowing, because people will be like, oh, I'm not sure, Like they're really unsure, but they feel it, but then they're unsure whether to actually listen
Mhm.
a lot of times. Like there's a hesitation in that knowing, like as
Mhm.
if we could be like as if we're going to hurt somebody or it could be wrong, but it's like you can really trust that like feeling inside
Mhm.
because yeah, it goes back to the compass. It's like in you learn to trust yourself through experience.
Mhm. Definitely. Both good and bad experiences.
Yes, and you
I
have
think sometimes we wanna think that only bad experiences shape us, but that's not really true. Like,
mhm.
good experiences shape you too.
Yeah,
And
like
and
yeah,
hard.
you get rewarded for speaking your truth. Some like
Yeah,
around the right people, it's it's
it's
beautiful.
very true. It is very true. Yep. And hard experiences shape us too. I mean, everything shapes you. Like, it's
Mhm.
not just. I think sometimes we have this idea that only the hard thing, like, only the hard things or the terrifying things or the fearful things shape us, but in reality, the good shapes us as well. A good relationship, a creative, artistic expression, a movie that really touches your heart. Um, you know, maybe a new piece of wisdom that drops into your consciousness that you never even thought about before, but it just drops in one day. I'm like, wow, I never even thought of that.
Yeah, I feel like
Those are exciting.
the deepest healing I've ever gone through is when people have shown me love and acceptance because love is how we ultimately transmute anything. And so through those experiences of people actually choosing love, like more transformation has come from that for me than judgment, for example.
So choosing So I think you're hitting on a key distinction that we need to make. So basically, when somebody is speaking their truth to you, choose to stay in love so that the experience can land for them
Mhm.
in whatever way they decide to whatever they decide to do with it. If it rings true for them and they can start putting that in their trust bucket, or they're like, nope, that's not me, so I'm not going to honor that. Like, it doesn't matter. If you can stay connected to love, it is when the transformation can occur. It does do something to the soul.
Mhm.
It feels really good.
Yeah. Yeah, it reminds me we can help each other build back our ability to trust ourselves.
Hmm.
That's a really, really beautiful thing to do with another human being, is
Hmm.
to help them to validate their intuition and inner trust and knowing.
Hmm. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Right. Thanks for chatting today.
Hmm.